The evening sky was painted with gold and gray. The wind blew gently across the vast lawns of Mr. Smith's white marble mansion, where the grass was trimmed to perfection and the lights shimmered like stars trapped on earth. Inside the mansion, servants moved quietly, polishing the tables, adjusting the curtains, and setting the dinner table with silver plates that reflected the glow of the chandelier. Among them was a little maid, Maya, just 12 years old, small, thin, but graceful in the way she moved, careful, quiet, respectful. Her faded pale blue uniform looked too big for her fragile body, and her white apron had patches that told silent stories of overwork and poverty. She walked barefoot most of the time inside the kitchen. Her old black shoes rested near the door, torn and tired like her. Yet her eyes, big, dark, and full of innocence, glimmered with something rare in that world of gold: kindness. Maya had been working in Mr. Smith's mansion for nearly a year. Her parents were gone, lost to illness and debt, and she was sent to work as a maid to pay off what her family owed. She woke up before the sun, washed dishes until her small hands turned red, and served food she could never eat. Every day she carried trays of golden brown bread, butter, roasted chicken, and steaming soup, the smell alone enough to make her stomach ache. Yet when the servants finished eating, she would quietly collect the leftovers, wrap them in an old piece of cloth, and hide them under her apron. Nobody noticed. Nobody asked. Because Maya had a secret. Every night, after the mansion lights dimmed and silence filled the air, Maya slipped through the back door. She walked carefully down the stone path, across the cold garden until she reached the iron gates. There, under a broken streetlight, sat a man, Steve, an old beggar with gentle eyes, wrapped in a torn brown coat and a thin gray blanket. His beard was messy and his hands shook from the cold. Yet, when he saw Maya, his eyes always lit up, not because of the food, but because someone remembered him. "Good evening, little angel," Steve would whisper, his voice soft and kind. Maya would smile shyly. "Good evening, Steve. I brought you some food." She unwrapped the cloth, revealing the leftovers from the billionaire's table: half a slice of bread, some soup in a small jar, a few crumbs of roasted chicken. She placed them carefully beside him, as if she were setting a royal meal. Steve always bowed his head. "May the Lord bless you, child." Maya shook her head gently. "No, please eat. You need it more." Then she would watch him eat quietly, with that same peaceful smile, though her own stomach growled in the night. One night, the sky broke open with rain. The mansion windows trembled as thunder rolled across the hills. Maya stood by the kitchen window, hugging herself for warmth. The servants had gone to their rooms, and she was the only one left awake. She looked at the clock, midnight. Then she saw through the rain a faint figure near the gate. It was Steve, shivering under his blanket soaked to the bone. Without hesitation, Maya grabbed the leftover bread, poured some soup into a jar, and ran outside. The wind bit her cheeks and her feet splashed through puddles. Her apron clung to her legs, her hair stuck to her face, but she didn't stop. When she reached the gate, Steve's hands were trembling too much to hold the food. Maya knelt down, covered his hands with hers, and whispered, "Please eat, Steve. You'll get sick." Tears mixed with rain on her face. Steve smiled weakly. "You shouldn't be here, child. You'll catch a cold." "I'll be fine," Maya replied softly. "You always say that, but it's you who needs care." He looked at her for a long time, then said, "You are the richest soul I've ever met, Maya." But this time, they were not alone. From the balcony of the mansion, hidden behind heavy curtains, Mr. Smith stood with a glass of wine in his hand. His cold blue eyes narrowed as he watched the little maid kneel before a beggar in the rain, giving away his food. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But his jaw tightened. "Why?" he whispered to himself. "Why would she do that?" The thunder rumbled again, and in that flash of lightning, the image was burned into his mind. A rich man's food being shared by a poor maid with someone poorer than her. The mansion was quiet the next morning. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows, painting golden rectangles on the marble floor. Maya moved silently through the corridors, her pale blue uniform slightly damp from last night's rain, her apron still patched and worn. She didn't notice the tension in the air, the silent eyes of the butler watching her every step, nor the faint shadow that followed her from the dining hall, Mr. Smith. Smith had spent the night staring at the rain-soaked scene he had witnessed. His mind couldn't stop thinking about the little maid kneeling for a beggar in the storm. Pride, anger, and confusion battled inside him. How could someone so insignificant have such courage? Such compassion? Finally, he stepped out of the shadow and spoke, his voice cold and commanding. "Maya," he said. Maya froze. Her heart skipped. She turned slowly, holding a small tray in her hands. "Yes, sir? I saw you last night." Her eyes widened. The color drained from her face. She swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. I only—" she began, but Smith's piercing blue gaze cut through her. "You gave my food to a beggar?" he asked, each word heavy, filled with judgment. "Yes, sir," she whispered, looking down. He has no one. I just wanted him to eat." Smith's lips pressed into a thin line. He was torn. Part of him wanted to punish. Part of him felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Smith walked slowly toward her. Each step echoed in the silent hallway. "Do you know how much this food costs? How much effort is spent to prepare it?" I don't want to waste it, sir," Maya replied softly, her small voice shaking. It doesn't matter to me if I go hungry." "But he—" Her words faltered. Tears pricked her eyes. Smith stopped. He studied her. The sight of this little girl, trembling yet brave, touched a part of him he thought was long dead. But he didn't soften completely. "You're reckless," he said finally. "You risk your health, your life, for someone you barely know." "I'm not afraid, sir," she said firmly. I couldn't watch him starve. I'd rather be hungry myself." For the first time, Smith felt guilt, a strange weight pressing against his pride. His mansion, his wealth, his power, none of it could make him feel this way. Over the next few days, Smith watched Maya closely. He saw her giving leftover food to Steve each night, covering him from the cold with her small body, holding his hands to warm them. Something changed in him. He began questioning his own life. How many times had he ignored those in need? How many had gone hungry while he feasted alone? One night, unable to sleep, he went to the gate himself. Maya and Steve were there, sharing warmth and bread under the flickering streetlight. Smith didn't speak. He just watched. And as he watched, a memory of his lost wife and child flickered. How he had chosen wealth over love, pride over compassion. He realized then that true wealth wasn't gold or silver. True wealth was the ability to care, to give without expecting, to be human. The next morning, Smith called Maya to the study. His voice was softer, almost gentle. "Maya," he said, I was wrong to judge you. What you did, it was brave." Maya blinked, unsure. "Sir?" "I want to help him," Smith said. "And I want to help you too. You shouldn't have to give your leftovers to survive. You deserve proper food, clothing, education." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She had never been offered such kindness before, but she shook her head gently. "No, sir. I'm happy as I am. I only want to help him." Smith felt a deep sadness. He wanted to give her everything, but she valued others' lives over her own. That selflessness both humbled and broke him. Weeks passed. Smith tried to help discreetly, leaving warm blankets for Steve, improving Maya's uniforms, and silently donating to the poor. But one night, a sudden illness struck Steve. Maya's brave hands couldn't save him. She sat by his side, tears streaming, holding his frail hand. Smith watched from the window, his heart heavy with guilt. Despite all his money, all his power, he could not change every injustice. Maya whispered softly, "It's okay, Steve. You are free now. You'll never be hungry again." And in that moment, Smith understood. Humanity wasn't about wealth or control. It was about love, sacrifice, and compassion. Even if it ended in tragedy. Days after Steve's death, the mansion felt heavier. The chandeliers glimmered as always, but the walls seemed colder, emptier. Mr. Smith wandered from room to room, his polished shoes echoing on marble floors. He had spent his life building wealth and power, yet he realized something vital had slipped away: humanity. He began to watch Maya differently. Every day he saw her selflessness, her quiet bravery, and the way she smiled even when life was cruel. She was 12, fragile, poor, yet stronger than any man he had ever known. Finally, one evening he spoke to her. "Maya," he said softly, sitting across from her at the kitchen table. "I want to help you, truly help you. Not with leftovers or hand-me-downs. I want you to live properly. You deserve warmth, education, a future." Maya's big dark eyes widened. She shook her head gently. "No, sir," she whispered. "I only want to help others. That's my happiness." Smith's heart sank. For the first time he realized that love and compassion could not be bought or forced. They had to be earned in the heart. Smith began small. Every night, he left extra blankets for Maya and the street children near the mansion gates. He improved Maya's uniform subtly, making it warmer and more durable without telling her. Maya noticed, but she never spoke. She only smiled, thinking the world had a little bit of kindness left. Through this, Smith began to change. His anger, pride, and arrogance softened. He walked the mansion corridors with less judgment and more observation. He noticed the suffering in small gestures, a maid's tired hands, a gardener's sore back. Humanity began to awaken in him like sunlight through clouds, and Maya's courage was the spark. One cold evening, Smith invited Maya to the study. The fire flickered softly, warming the vast room. "Maya," he began, voice trembling slightly, "I have been wrong. You taught me what I had forgotten, compassion. I want to do something for all those who suffer like Steve." Maya looked at him, puzzled. "I want to open a place, a safe home for children and the poor, where they can eat, sleep, and learn," he said. "And I want you to help run it. You will be the heart of it." Maya's lips quivered. Tears fell, but she smiled. "Sir, I can't. I'm just a maid," she said softly. "You are more than that," Smith said firmly. "You are brave, kind, and pure. The world needs people like you." Over the next few weeks, the mansion's grounds were transformed. A wing was renovated to host the children and families in need. Smith provided warm beds, food, and books, while Maya oversaw every small detail. She taught the children gently, shared stories, and made sure no one felt lonely or hungry. And every night, she whispered a silent prayer for Steve, who had inspired this new mission. The mansion, once a cold monument to wealth, slowly became a place of hope. Smith walked through it quietly, watching Maya work with care. He felt something he had never felt before: pride. Not for money or power, but for helping others. But life, as it often does not allow pure joy to last forever. One evening, while Maya was helping the youngest children to bed, she collapsed. Her small body had carried too much burden for too long. Smith rushed to her side, panic flashing across his face. "Maya, stay with me!" he shouted. Maya's big eyes, wet with tears, met his. "Sir, I'm okay, as long as they are safe," she whispered. Her small hand reached for his, holding it with surprising strength. Smith's heart shattered. He had tried to protect everyone, but had overlooked the one soul who carried, more than anyone else. The doctors arrived, but her health had been weakened for years by malnutrition and overwork. Despite all efforts, Maya's body was too fragile. Maya lay in a small bed in the renovated wing of the mansion, surrounded by the children she loved so dearly. Smith held her hand, tears streaming down his face, his once proud heart broken. "Thank you, Maya," he whispered, voice cracking, "for teaching me to be human, for showing me love." Maya smiled faintly. "Sir, promise, you will continue. The home, help everyone, like I tried." "I promise," Smith said, clutching her hand tightly. With a peaceful breath, Maya closed her eyes. The room was silent except for the soft weeping of children and the quiet sobs of the billionaire, who had finally learned the value of humanity. Even in tragedy, her legacy lived on. The mansion became a beacon of hope. The home she had inspired became a sanctuary for countless souls. And Mr. Smith, once cold and proud, was transformed forever by the pure heart of a little maid who had given all she had, even when the world had given her nothing. Weeks after Maya's passing, the mansion no longer felt cold or empty. The once imposing white marble walls had softened with warmth. Rooms were filled with laughter, chatter, and soft footsteps. Children ran across polished floors, their tiny shoes tapping lightly against the marble. The dining hall, once a symbol of solitude, now served warm meals to dozens of children every day. Mr. Smith walked through the halls, still in his dark suit, but his posture was less rigid. His once cold blue eyes now held a mixture of pride and sorrow. He paused at a small table where a few children were reading. He noticed a tiny frame of Maya in a photograph by the fireplace, smiling, her pale blue uniform slightly worn. The first rays of dawn touched the mansion garden, painting everything in soft gold. Flowers bloomed where Maya had once knelt, teaching the children about life, love, and courage. Mr. Smith walked slowly, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the children run and play. He paused at the fountain, remembering the tiny figure of Maya, drenched in rain, giving everything she had to someone less fortunate. Though her body was gone, her spirit was everywhere. The mansion no longer symbolized wealth, it symbolized hope, humanity, and sacrifice. A gentle breeze carried the laughter of the children, mixing with birdsong. Smith closed his eyes and whispered softly, "Thank you, Maya, for showing me the world through your heart." On the anniversary of Maya's death, Smith found a folded letter tucked in her old apron, carefully preserved by one of the children. It read, in her small, neat handwriting, "Dear Sir, always remember that even the smallest act of kindness can change the world. Feed the hungry, help the weak, and love with all your heart. That is the true treasure. Maya." Tears streamed down Smith's face as he held the letter close. It was a message from beyond, a guidepost for a life rebuilt on humanity, compassion, and empathy. He knew then that Maya's legacy was not just in the mansion, the children, or the charity. It was in every life she had touched. Years passed. The children Maya had nurtured grew up, carrying her lessons into the world. Some became teachers, doctors, and social workers. Others simply carried the kindness she had taught them, helping those in need quietly, without recognition. Smith watched proudly as they flourished. Every act of generosity reminded him of Maya, the little maid who had taught a billionaire how to care, how to love, and how to be human. The mansion gates were no longer barriers. They were open doors to a better life. The community she had inspired now thrived, and even strangers found hope and help there. In the garden, near the fountain where she had spent so many hours, a bronze statue of Maya was placed. The statue captured her perfectly, kneeling, holding bread in her hands, smiling softly, hair slightly tousled, apron worn but neat. Children would run past it, whispering stories about her bravery. Adults would pause, reflecting on what one small, selfless girl could achieve. Smith stood before the statue, his eyes filled with tears. "You truly changed everything," he whispered. "The world is better because of you." One quiet evening, Smith walked alone through the mansion. The halls were empty, but the echoes of Maya's laughter, her teachings, and her kindness seemed to linger in the air. He sat by the fireplace where her photo rested, gently touching it. "I was blind before," he said softly. "I thought wealth could buy happiness. But Maya, you showed me the truth. Love, sacrifice, and humanity. That is the real wealth.